You ever find yourself in one of those conversations, maybe with a really smart person, and you're laying out all the facts, but they're just not landing? It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? It goes way deeper than just someone being stubborn. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the hidden and frankly fascinating logic behind why our brains, all of our brains, are often wired to pick belief over cold, hard truth.
So what is going on there? Why do we, as a species, so often just turn away from clear, solid evidence? Well, the answer isn't that we're all just failing at logic. No, it's about something way more fundamental, something that's literally hardwired right into our most basic survival instincts.
All right, so let's dive into a pretty radical idea. Hang with me here. What if rejecting facts isn't always irrational? What if there's a completely different kind of logic running in the background, a logic that prioritizes something else, something more important than the cold, hard truth? Okay, here's the absolute core of what we're talking about. When a fact, a real truth, threatens our well-being or our sense of security or maybe our place in our community, rejecting that fact might actually be the most rational thing to do from a pure survival standpoint. I know, it sounds wild, so let's actually break down how that could possibly work.
To really get this, we've got to look at what the human brain actually evolved to do. It wasn't built to be some kind of perfect, objective, truth-finding supercomputer. Nope. Its primary job, its number one priority, first and foremost, has always been just keep us alive.
And this sets up two competing forces that are pretty much always at work inside our minds. On one side, you've got what's called epistemic rationality. That's the part of us that loves facts, that wants to understand how the world really is. But then, on the other side, you've got instrumental rationality. And that is the powerful, primal drive to do whatever it takes to survive, not just physically, but psychologically and socially too. And when those two go head-to-head, yeah, survival usually wins.
So a great way to think about this is to see your brain not as a computer, but as a survival engine, right? Its main goal isn't just processing raw data for pure accuracy. It's processing that data based on the impact it's going to have on you. It's constantly asking questions like, will this piece of info make me safer? Will it help me fit in with my group? Or is it going to scare me and get me kicked out? The engine's whole response depends on the answers to those questions.
So how does this survival engine actually defend itself? Well, it builds these amazing psychological shields. They're like these automatic defenses that just kick into gear to protect our most important beliefs whenever they come under attack from some, uncomfortable new information.
And one of the most powerful shields comes from something called terror management theory. See, deep down, a lot of us are just terrified of our own mortality. It's a heavy thought. This theory suggests that many of our deepest beliefs about religion, purpose, you name it, they act as this incredible anxiety buffering system. They soothe that existential dread. So when a fact comes along that challenges one of those core beliefs, it doesn't feel like an intellectual debate. It feels like a direct attack on our psychological safety net.
And on top of that, our brains kind of come with these preloaded biases, like factory settings. Take Promiscuous teleology. I know, it's a fancy term, but it just means we have this deep-seated need to see purpose and design in everything. It's the reason we see faces in clouds, or we say everything happens for a reason. It makes the idea of randomness just feel wrong, deeply unsatisfying. And then you've got the famous sunk cost fallacy. If you've poured years of your life, your energy, your money into a belief, giving it up feels like throwing all that investment away. And that feeling of loss, it's incredibly painful to accept.
Now, these internal shields are powerful all on their own, for sure, but they become almost impenetrable when you add in the pull of our group, our tribe, because for that survival engine we were talking about, social survival is every single bit as critical as physical survival.
And groups have this playbook, these incredibly effective strategies for defending their core beliefs. Step one, they build echo chambers, right? They frame any outside information as being hostile or maybe corrupt. Step two, they establish sacred values. These are the ideas that are just completely untouchable beyond question. And finally, step three, through something called identity fusion, your personal identity literally merges with the group's identity. And once that happens, any attack on the group's belief feels like a deeply personal attack on you.
Okay, so this all leads to a really fascinating paradox. Why do some groups hold on to beliefs that, to an outsider, just seem completely absurd? Well, from a group dynamics perspective, believing in that absurd thing can actually be a surprisingly rational strategy.
This idea is called costly signaling. And just think about it for a second. Anybody can say they believe something easy and obvious,
But to publicly believe something that flies in the face of common knowledge, something that might even get you ridiculed by outsiders? Wow, that is a powerful, really hard-to-fake signal that you are 100% committed to the tribe. It's proof that your loyalty to the group is stronger than your loyalty to outside facts.
So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this fundamental conflict that's just baked right into our psychology. It's this constant and often totally unconscious trade-off between our search for objective truth on one side and our desperate need for psychological and social security on the other.
So let's put it all together. If accepting a new fact means you have to face some terrifying existential dread, or even worse, it means you'll be cast out from your community, the very people you count on for support and your sense of who you are, that survival engine in your brain is going to do the math, and it's going to decide the cost is just too high. In that exact moment, rejecting the fact becomes the most rational move to protect your overall well-being.
And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. We talk all the time about the cost of ignorance, but this whole idea kind of flips the script, doesn't it? It forces us to ask, what is the real psychological and social cost of objective truth? And if we're being honest with ourselves, are we always prepared to pay it?